Hello everyone, welcome to the AMA session of project explanation project explanation session with EECS Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley. And this is Lakshit Pant, your host for today. And we have Edward here. He'll be explaining, he's the project mentor for this project, and he'll be explaining you how we can contribute, how you should submit your proposal, and what exactly these guys are looking for as a contributor, and what are their expectations from you guys, and what these guys are looking for as in proposal. So let's start with a quick introduction of Edward. Edward, could you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Edward Kim. I'm a PhD student in the Electrical Engineering and Computer Sciences Department at UC Berkeley. Um, yeah, I've been interested in and working on research related to training people in extended reality setting, training for skills, physical skills. And now that has been leading up to the current projects that I'm working on, which we'll get to. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. And I just wanted to know the project idea, or if you could explain a little bit about the organization, like what type of research work you guys are doing, and how this particular project, and what is about your department, the EECS department, if you could explain a little bit.
Yeah. So about the department, it's a pretty broad department that involves both the electrical aspect and the computer sciences aspect. But for this project, it's more heavily leaning towards the computer science aspect, um, with um, electronic devices like using uh, mixed reality or virtual reality headsets. As to the projects, it's about there are two. We propose two different projects, two different domains. One is on physical rehabilitation of stroke patients, and the second one is about sports. Um, Regarding stroke patients, well, I'll start with the sports setting. Particularly in sports, we're looking into soccer. Um, and soccer is an interesting setting because we get to um, see both the competitive it contains both the competitive aspect and the collaborative aspect, meaning you're collaborating with your teammates while competing with another opponent players. So and that's interesting regarding sort of the future of work. The various different work settings, workplaces, there are aspects which require some competitive aspects as well as collaborative aspects, mostly collaborative. Um, but soccer contains those both characteristics. And in terms of the scalability, we can scale up the number of players that you're competing or collaborating with um, easily. So it's an interesting environment, interesting domain that potentially reflects a lot of characteristics in different workplaces, and the techniques that we develop here to help people learn skills, tactical skills for soccer, can potentially translate to other workplaces as well. And what does that look like? It involves, first of all, constructing different scenarios, tactical scenarios, that requires one to think, how can I defend in this case? Let's say if it's a defensive situation, and it's likely that we're going to focus on defensive situations since there is no haptics involved and we can't feel the ball. So we're going to focus on the defensive setting. In that case, in different defensive situations where the opponents are competing with you in a certain tactical coordinated ways, then how should a defender defend in this case in collaboration with its teammate? Um, so constructing those different tactical situations, and then providing, based on that, based on the human trainees' behavior, how they actually defend, what kind of feedback can we provide? And one interesting aspect is in conjunction with visual cues as to what kind of actions they could have taken that might have resulted in a better outcome, meaning successfully defending within a bounded period of time. In addition to that, can we also provide any verbal feedback, leveraging recent progress, a lot of advances in large language models? So those are sort of the directions that we're looking into. So there, it's about, okay, how can we, so yeah, so I'll stop over there. And now moving on to the physical rehabilitation setting. Now this is a different, similar, but it's a different setting in that we're not teaching necessarily teaching a skill, but rather trying to help people rehabilitate people who are suffering from stroke. So first of all, what is stroke? Stroke, there are billions of arteries, blood vessels in your brain. And if one of them gets clogged, then the parts of the brain that is connected to the artery is damaged. And if that part of the brain oftentimes contains controlling of the physical body, like your arm or hands, people lose control over that parts of the body. And clinically, it has been shown that mass repetition of exercises related to the parts of the body that are affected tends to help them recover. So similar to the soccer setting, we are constructing realistic training scenarios. For example, going to a grocery shopping, interacting with the cashier, how modeling those settings in Unity, different scenarios, and also use of large language models to provide more of a realistic experience as if the patient is interacting with them. And as to the motivation as to why we want to do this, stroke patients very often, I think it was like 90% of the case, they go through depression. So you can imagine that, and if you put yourself in their shoes, you suddenly lose control over parts of your body and you can't function as you used to. And imagine going to a grocery shopping after stroke and you're trying to get a credit card out of your wallet and you can't even do that properly, and you're stumbling and dropping things. And as you're doing that, there's a long line forming right behind you, and it's embarrassing. And it starts building up the fear in you. You don't want to go out. You're in fear of going out. So we want to come up with those realistic situations, and in the headset. And then we want to deploy those headsets to individual homes so that individuals can wear it and practice, and in the process also rehabilitate parts of the body that are affected.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
yeah, please
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I'm
Go
done.
ahead. Go ahead. So I just have some follow-up questions for the first project, for the second project precisely. So, and these developers, so if these developers are not having these VR headsets, so how was the best possible way they can contribute to the project one?
I see. Oh, so the assumption is they don't have the VR headset?
Yeah, they don't have the VR headsets. So,
I see. So I think um, mm, right. In that case, um, there are aspects which still would be very helpful from the developer side. Is that, first of all, there are two different aspects, right? First is static aspect. How can we, first of all, model those realistic environments? Let's say, suppose you are at a grocery uh, store. There are different parts of the grocery store where in one aspect where you have to pick up different groceries. The other aspect is, for example, you are in front of the cashiers interacting. Like, first of all, you have to unload your stuff and then interact with the cashier and so on. So regarding those, constructing those static environments. I think the second part is, which is more complex and getting more interesting, is now coming up with the animations for those human virtual avatars that's going to be interacting with the patient, for example, the cashier. Uh, and the third part is the verbal aspect, right? Connecting the large language models with those human avatars, which, and to have the human avatars uh, say verbal comments that are realistic, right, while interacting with the patient. So since there is no headset on the developer side, um, these are the parts that they can focus on. For example, also in terms of verbalizing, the human avatar needs to ideally say things synchronized with their lips. So that's another detail that needs to look at. And to give them more realistic setting, we can also animate what the human would do, right? Instead of having the human wear the VR headset and interact, we can animate what the human can potentially do using 3D animation and modeling. And in response to humans' behaviors, uh, uh, be able to adapt the human customers' behaviors and the verbal messages, the things that they say, to be more realistic.
Yeah, that's super nice. And so there are some basic follow-up questions that I just have. So before going to the comment section, I just have few more questions that will cover most of the part that people are asking. So
Oh wow,
you
there's
have
a comment section. Sorry, I just found out there is a comment
yeah.
section. Okay, yeah,
So you
go
have
ahead.
mentioned three tech stacks like Blender, Unreal Engine, Unity 3. So these are the major tech stacks that you have mentioned for your project. So like what capabilities you are looking for. So there are, if we talk about Blender, Unity 3, it's if it's a intermediate level or advanced level or a beginner level who have approximate 6 months of experience with these tools
Hmm.
specifically can apply to your project, or what typically you are looking for.
Right. So I'm currently using Unity as a main developing engine, not Unreal Engine. So just Unity, and Unity in combination with 3D animation modeling tools like Maya or Blender, which can be imported into Unity. So I'm looking for someone not beginner, at least an intermediate in terms of the use of Unity and 3D animation and modeling using these tools like Blender and Maya. Um, yeah. Um, yeah, that's the general background. Yeah, I'm looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So now let's go to the questions that we have here. So, what's the best way to contribute to this project? Okay, so first of all, I just wanted to address one question, one query that you also had, Edward, on the Slack channel. Like, what is this proposal thing exactly, right? So, this proposal, it's something these developers will be proposing their idea. So, we have description, we have your text, everything you have given to us. We have mentioned in your website. Now, these developers will give it a look. They will explore their tech skills, if they are right fit for not. They will suggest their idea how they can contribute to your project. So in
Mhm.
that proposal they will maybe they can share their experiences, their past maybe modeling experiences or past experiences that they have worked with on Unity, and also whatnot. So this is what they are going to make, create a proposal, and they will submit those proposals, and you will be getting all these proposals so that you can evaluate these students, right? Now so this part, I hope this part is clear. Now you can answer those queries in the Slack channel. So there is one question. So what is an ideal proposal looks like according to you? Like what should they mention, on what basis you will evaluate these developers, like yeah, these guys are perfect fit to contribute to this project?
Right. So I think in both cases, um, 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 it would be, so there are 12 weeks, and I would expect first, depending on the individual's learning speed, two first 2 to 3, even at maybe at max 4 weeks, catching up to speed on how to um, let's see. So
maybe
Mm,
kind of assigning the task or something like this, right?
yeah,
If
yeah.
I'm not
So
wrong.
what? Yeah, yeah. So what I would expect is constructing first of all statics training scenarios for both two different projects, as and that that involves a static aspect as well as the dynamic aspect of uh, uh, the static aspect should be straightforward if it's an intermediate Unity developer. In addition to that, now start adding these animations, behaviors, and verbal lip syncing in conjunction with large language models. So, and constructing ideally somewhere between 5 to 10 different scenarios, um, ideally 10 scenarios over the course of 12 weeks. And then I think so that's the goal. That's the goal for both cases. Um, yeah, that's the expectation. So,
Okay, perfect. So yeah, so Shabira is asking, do I need to know machine learning for this project?
right. Not necessarily. I mean, I understand that there's a large language model components involved in there as well, but it's not a must.
So there is something. So as much as I
Yeah.
can infer from this statement,
I,
yeah, this is more
mhm.
of a web development side. So he's asking if he can contribute to your project or not.
uh, uh, I see. Um, right. There is an aspect of, yeah, I mean that is also that could be a relevant aspect too. It's something that I haven't mentioned here, but the question is, we don't know what the human will do in advance. So
Okay. Yeah,
human as either human patient or the human trainee in the soccer setting.
same.
So
Exactly.
how do we come up with reactive behavior of
Yeah.
the environment agents that are interacting with you? So in that sense, we do need sort of like a server client setting where the client is a human and the server is in the Unity setting, watching what the human is doing and instructing what the environment agents to do every like 0.5 second or something to react. And that aspect may require the Android development aspect as well. Um, but yeah, I'll have to see the background or CV of that person in more detail. Yeah.
So the next question is from Shadur. He is asking technical teamwork. What kind of full body tracking is expected?
Yeah. So regarding full body tracking, I'm thinking of using Sony's Mixam Mocopi, or there are recent other ones like Slime VR, but I'm thinking about exploring Mocopi first. It's yeah,
And those who are asking about the proposal, so what we are doing, like Harshit and multiple people are getting these queries about, we are getting these queries frequently in all the email sessions. So we'll be doing a next, maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow, I'll be doing a session on proposals, like how to write a proposal and for every
mm,
different projects. So I hope that will help you. Okay. Okay. So someone is asking, can I see the GitHub of the projects? Because in all the projects, the GitHub is mentioned, and here it is more kind of a proprietary. So
yeah,
if you could, if there is any information you could share that could be helpful for these developers to understand, that is over the GitHub, but you can share it them. So you can, if you can explain this scenario to these guys.
yeah. Oh, so regarding the proposal, if I may help, perhaps saying something like maybe in the first 2-3 weeks, you'll catch up to speed on what's going on in terms of the timeline. Out of 12 weeks, first 2-3 weeks, focusing on learning what's going on in this project, as well as how to um, um, maybe first 2 weeks, perhaps if it's an intermediate person, uh, just familiarizing with how to set things up in Unity, as well as importing animations into Unity and then interacting with, just getting familiarizing with that. And then in the next 10 weeks, every week focusing on just completing one scenario, right? That involves the static aspect, dynamic interaction aspect, as well as verbal aspect. So I think that kind of gives a picture of what can happen.
Yeah,
Okay, now
but
as to the GitHub, yeah, sorry for not being able to share at this point. It's a research project, and I think convention is, at least in the North America, um, because it's half done, it's half baked at this point. We're working on it, right? So it's difficult to just publicly let this release this, and also uh, it's a matter of credit as well. So it is not published yet, so we can't just publicly show this yet until this publication is done. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
definitely. And yeah, and answering, I'm just, so there is this question. Okay, and yeah, I just have one more question for you, Kim. So these guys, these developers in the Slack channel are multiple times this happened. This scenario, this was the scenario. Like the tech stacks or the idea that you have mentioned, they are coming up with a new idea for the same project. Like you have proposed an idea, and they are getting some uh, idea they have worked in their former projects. Like that can be added in your project. So are you open to new ideas that might be integrated in your project?
yeah, of course. I mean, if it's relevant and also align with the goal of the project, which, let's say, if it's helpful for the patient in terms of, I mean, like, there are many different aspects which they can propose extra ideas in terms of the user, basically the user interface, right? How to interact with the humans, that's going to provide more realistic experience, or in verbal interactions, and so on. Yeah, definitely. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, so there is this big statement that is coming from Shaurav. If you can read it out, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So his question might be something like, so is he the right fit for the project or not? Shall he apply? Because they have limited,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
number of, they can only
Right.
submit to 4 proposals to 4 organizations.
Yeah.
So that,
Yeah, let me be honest so that I can be helpful for you to find the right project. As I mentioned, I'm looking for intermediate, at least, in both the animation side as well as Unity. So it's gotta be a combination of both.
yes,
Thank you.
and there is this last question from Shadul. If you could address this as well
Yeah,
regarding 12 weeks and
yeah.
time for
I'll
proposal.
read it. So we do have a few students here working with on this project, and those students are yeah. So you're not going to be alone. You're going to be working with them. Uh,
Yes, and there is something like similar project will be a part of research, or it will just an implementation that we work on.
oh, I think 12 weeks is a bit short for to be
Research.
well on
Yeah,
the research side. I think
yeah, exactly.
probably 12 weeks maybe spent if you were to do research just on the just catching up. So probably it will be mostly on the implementation side. There may be some taste of research as well.
Yeah, and after this, if you want to contribute, like AJH, if you want to contribute to these with Edward and his team, you are definitely open. You can definitely reach out to them if you get selected as a fellow, and if Kim is enjoying your company and you are also enjoying his team, definitely you can contribute their research work if you find it insightful. So this is how we have changed almost every question, and so Kim, it would be very helpful for the students if you could continuously answer the queries on the Slack channel, and I'll be helping you out with them. The basic queries I'll sort it out, but the technical queries that only you will know about your project, because you are the owner of the project, so you will be doing all these opportunities. So KJ, it will be in remote opportunity. So this fellowship will be in remote. So you'll be working with Edward remotely, right? So yes, so this is it from my end. I hope, guys, if you have any other questions, please let us know in the comment section. Otherwise, we can wrap it up here. And thank you, Kim. Thank you for joining us. It was a really nice talking to you. It was
Sure.
really great gesture from your side addressing all these queries. And
Yeah, and if I may, you can also, if you have further questions, you can drop it in the Slack in the Berkeley EECS queries channel, I think.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
checking that nowadays, so please feel free.
Yeah, and exactly. And also, Edward, if you have any resources or maybe any documentation that would help these developers to understand the project a little bit more so that they can create a good proposal out of it. So if you could share some resources so that they can understand, or maybe any similar kind of project or so, it would be helpful for these guys to explore, right? Your project.
Mhm.
So thank you for
Yeah,
joining in, and thank you for time, Kim. And I really appreciate it. And thank you. Best of luck, guys, for your proposals, and best of luck for the fellowship. Thank you, Kim. A great
thank you.
morning.
Thank you
Thank
for joining, everyone. Thank you,
you.
Lakshay.